Hi, Dr. Reagan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now.
As you guys know, I'd gone through a divorce halfway into my practice, probably 18 years in. And a good reason for that probably was a lack of understanding by my spouse and my lack of communication skills to really explain, what was going on.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Bruce B. Baird, and you're listening to the Productive Dentist Podcast. In this podcast, I will give you everything that I've learned over the last 40 years in dentistry, working with thousands of dentists. I'll tell you, it's not that my way is the only way. It's just one that has worked extremely well for me, and I'd love to share that with you so you too can enjoy the choices and lifestyle that productivity allows. More time for things you love, increased pay, better team relationships, and lowered stress. Let's get into it with this week's episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.
Hi, this is Dr. Bruce Baird with the Productive Dentist Podcast, and I'm going to spend the next few podcasts talking about or just answering questions that I've gotten from different listeners across the whole world. It's been really exciting and fun for me getting these questions, and I'm just, as always, I'm just going to kind of tell you the way I think about it. It's not necessarily the right way or the only way, but this was a real interesting question that came to us. It was, how do you, as a dentist, how do you support your spouse? And what are the ways that you communicate with your spouse? And I found that to be a really interesting question, especially since, as you guys know, I'd gone through a divorce halfway into my practice, probably 18 years in. And a good reason for that probably was a lack of understanding by my spouse and my lack of communication skills to really explain, what was going on. And what I say is, when you open up a dental practice, and I'm going to talk about my early career, but when you open up a dental practice and you're not used to being in debt, you're not used to running a business, all of a sudden, a lot of things are thrust on you. And that would be someone who's opened up their own practice. There's a lot of things that get thrust onto you as an associate also. And all of those things can increase stress. And we've talked about stress before. What happens to productivity when you're stressed out? Does it go up or down? Well, it goes down. And whether you're stressed because you're in an associateship situation that may not be the best in the world, which causes you stress, or you opened up your own practice and you've got, employees, and you have to take care of them. And, you're starting to think to yourself, well, I don't know how to take care of them. No one ever told me. And, I can certainly appreciate that because no one told me either. And that just caused a lot of stress. You get home, a lot of spouses think that, you're a dentist and you've got an 8 to 5 job and you're going to make a lot of money. And now you've opened up this practice and you're excited and everything's going well. And about a month in or 2 months in, all of a sudden you're not cutting home at 5 o'clock and you're going in at 7. And, you find yourself getting home at 7. So you're working a 12-hour day. And then there's days that you work till 8 and sometimes 9. And that is something that is extremely stressful, and it's stressful for your team. If you have kids or if you don't have kids, your spouse is there taking care of them all day, or watching them, or, all the things that they have to do to keep the household going. And here you are, stressed, trying to figure out how to make a business work, or how to make a living, and how to do it profitably. And as I talk with dentists across the country, it's so funny, because if I go back to the baby boomers, my generation, we're a lot of workaholics and alcoholics, but a lot of workaholics. I mean, they literally, I would stay at the office and just work and work and work, because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. But I see now in the newer generations that they really want balance. They want the ability to be able to have it all. And I agree with it, have life and not. But what I'm talking about today is that kind of, being able to talk with your spouse and communicate with them about, every evening, set aside 30 minutes to talk about what's gone on in the house. What are you dealing with? And then let me tell you a little bit about what I dealt with today, and I want your advice, honey. I'd like to get what you think about this. And what you're doing is you're beginning to get that back and forth communication that you really want to have in a relationship. Remember, a relationship is an agreed upon course of action between two parties. And that's the fun, that's the fun stuff that we get to do. But then once that's done, that 30 minutes, then you're over. No more discussing your dental practice. No more discussing the neighbors. No more discussing, what little Johnny did today. Now it's about you guys spending time to communicate, playing with the kids, if you have kids, or enjoying each other, watching movies, doing those things, because you've got to be committed to that relationship if you want that relationship to work. And I've seen it time and time and time again. And we get stuck in this situation where we think we need to provide, and so nothing else matters. And, the truth is, a lot of other things matter. I mean, that really does. The work will always be there. I'm getting an opportunity now I say opportunity, the realization that I have friends that are passing away, getting cancer, having heart attacks, different things. And they're passing away very suddenly. And there's some that have been sick for a while, but none of them would tell you they wish they'd worked 14 hours a day instead of 12. They just don't say that. They say, I wish I would have been more balanced. And that's why when I hear the younger generations now saying they want that balance, I think that's a great place to start, for sure. But what about all of us that are kind of in that situation? So we're talking about that as if it is a situation where you're just opening up a practice. But what about if you've been in practice for 20 years, 25 years, still having the support of your spouse and your team, kids, whatever, and communicating back and forth? The communication probably changes. Your practice is starting to run on autopilot, but still having that 30 minutes at the end of the day to talk about work and talk about home. And then it's time to plan, vacations, plan the fun stuff that you're going to get to do and the places that you're going to see. Because honestly, that's, we're only going to be on the planet for a short time. I'm confident that you're going to have a practice and you're going to be very successful. Just the fact that you're listening to my podcast, I can promise you, going through all of them, you're going to increase your productivity, and that's going to allow you to have choices. And choices are the things that you really want to have. You don't want to be backed into a corner. And I see so many docs, they've kind of gotten backed into a corner. They worked really hard. Now they're in their, some are in their mid 40s and some are in their mid 60s, but they haven't planned for retirement. They haven't planned much of anything. It really is kind of sad that there was no planning ahead for what's going to happen. And when I say that, it's, whatever you put your eye on that you really want to accomplish, you gotta see it. You gotta see that. Otherwise, you're never going to know if you get it. So that's why measuring things and getting things out there that you want to accomplish. I've told the story. I've got, oh gosh, I don't know, probably 40 full legal size yellow notepads just full of ideas and thoughts. And this is my game plan for next year and the year after and the year after that. But when you're doing that with your team and your spouse, now all of a sudden that kind of communication, you guys are all on the same page. You're not coming home just basically pissed off at the end of every day, which I did often, and I brought it home with me. I literally had, I was not a real fun person to be around. And you can imagine what it's like when you're coming home. So putting the smiley face on when you get home, but you can frown for that 30 minutes and say, we got to do this, and I'm working on this. What do you think? And as you go through that process, you start to communicate more and more, and there's no surprises. Like when if you're planning your financial future, you won't get those surprises like I got from my accountant that said, oh, by the way, you owe $53,000 in taxes. What? Do you think that causes stress in the family? And yes, it can cause severe stress. And that just rolls into the next bit of bad news. So what we do at PDA is we try to organize your business such that you spend more time in relationship and less time worried about the day-to-day. And we're going to talk in the next few podcasts about how do you build that office family or that team that can help you achieve your goals as well as you helping them achieve their goals. So, but dentistry, as you know, is difficult. It's not easy. You're working with, in many cases, patients that are in pain, patients that don't really want to be there, and we're helping them and we're getting them in optimal health. And so these are kind of things that I'm looking at saying, okay, let me explain this to my spouse. Let me talk to her or him daily. And then weekends are about, if we have a project going on at the office, we'll all go up and work together. But on a daily basis, 30 minutes of communication. And after that, all bets are off as far as the office. You just kind of set it aside. And now let's talk about us. Let's make sure that we're in the best place. And show true interest in what your spouse is doing. Because my mind, having ADD, ADHD, I'm thinking about the office, and it's hard for me. It was really hard for me. So I'm telling you guys to do something that I really didn't do a very good job of for 15 years. And I mean, a lousy job of, because I would come home upset. They would be talking about how the day went, and my mind was in Hawaii or somewhere else. And so that's just, I'm just challenging you. I have so many friends that have gone through divorces that are dentists. It's something that happens in our profession. And I pray for you I pray for you not to. I pray for you not to have to go through that, because that's a life event that you'd really prefer not to go through. And I've gone through it twice. So that on the one hand, I'm not a very good person to probably be listening to, but on the other hand, I've got a lot of experience. So on whatever hand that you look at that, you can make your own decisions on it. So anyway, thank you guys for listening to the Productive Dentist Podcast. I am just getting started back. We took a little sabbatical for a couple of months, and we're just starting back. We're going to have some new exciting podcasts for you to listen to. Tell your friends about it. We keep growing. We were, again, rated one of the top podcasts last year in dental. So I really appreciate you guys. And just like with PDA, most of PDA is Productive Dentist Academy has been word of mouth. And so if you'll tell your friends, and if you think what I'm talking about can help them, then please do that. Otherwise, I look forward to our next time together, and have a great week, and talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure you subscribe. Pass it along to a friend. Give us a like on iTunes and Spotify, or drop me an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. Don't forget to check out other podcasts from the Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentistpodcast.com. Join me again next week for another episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.